Hi, this is Hart, and this is a video series called Choosing the Best Trees. We will look at how to choose the best trees, what are the best trees, why is it important that we choose the best trees, why is it important for the planet, for human health, for wildlife. So let's look at, okay, why choose the best. I'm referring to my notes here, so when my eyes go this way, referring to my notes. Why choose the best trees? Our planet depends on it. Our planet absolutely depends on choosing the best trees. Wildlife certainly depends on the best trees. Wildlife needs habitat. Birds and small mammals, for example, need habitat. Trees tend to absorb water. That's an important source of water for insects and amphibians. So wildlife certainly depends on trees, but they need to be the best trees. And human health and survival depends on trees. The very air we breathe depends on plants generally, but trees are the backbone of any ecosystem, especially in Kentucky. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, so eastern hardwood forest trees are going to be the very foundation of that, but they need to be the best trees and they need to be the right trees. So let's look at, referring to my notes, let's look at some 7 other benefits of trees. Trees, no particular order. Trees sequester carbon. That means trees hide the carbon that's in our atmosphere, okay? So we know that there's too much carbon in our atmosphere, too much carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. Plants, and especially trees, absorb that carbon dioxide and turn it into oxygen. It's important that we do as much of that as possible. Some of the carbon that's in the atmosphere, there's a number that represents the amount of carbon that's in our atmosphere that's from deforestation, as opposed to burning fossil fuels. I've heard on good authority that that number is 1/3. So if that's true, when we deforest, 1/3 of that results in a situation where 1/3 of our carbon in our atmosphere is from deforestation because we don't have enough trees. We need to change the trend from deforestation to reforestation. No particular order, trees clean the air. They take the pollutants out of the air and filter them and give us oxygen. Trees cool the air so that they lower our utility bills. Trees produce oxygen, like we've been saying. All plants produce oxygen, but trees are the foundation of that ecosystem in the eastern hardwood forest. Trees clean water. Trees result in cleaner water. In Louisville especially, we send too much dirty, polluted water downstream. And if we had more trees in the right places, then we could filter that water, make it cleaner. So, when the rain falls, sometimes some of that water clings to the leaves and then it re-evaporates. That's much, much better than having it rush into our waterways. So trees and plants, their roots tend to break up the soil and make the soil more absorbent so that more water becomes groundwater instead of rushing into our waterways. So the trees result in cleaner water. Trees reduce flooding because of keeping some of that, when a raindrop falls, the worst thing that can happen is for it to rush into our waterways. Trees hold some of that water in their leaves, some of it in their bark. A mature tree can hold up to 100 gallons of water instead of that water becoming runoff. So trees result in cleaner water, trees reduce flooding, and of course trees are habitat for wildlife. So trees have many benefits. We cannot afford to live without them, but they need to be the best trees. We need to choose trees optimally, and we'll see which trees are the optimal choices for the best trees. Now, what are the best trees? Well, not all trees are equal. Not all trees are equal in their ability to support food chains. For example, Zelkova is popular, but Zelkova is non-native, so it does not do a good job of supporting our local wildlife, especially the all-important leaf-eating insects. None of them can eat Zelkova. We have Zelkova because it looks like the elms that died off, but Zelkova is not a good choice. Bradford pear is not a good choice because it's invasive. Burning bush is not a good choice. There are many. Tree of heaven is not a good choice. Ginkgo is not a good choice. There are many of them that are not good choices, but we'll see which ones are. Now, just to give you a little preview, in Jefferson County, the top 5 choices for trees that support wildlife. We'll explain why a little bit later in another video. I'm going to give you these 5 and then we're going to move on to another video. Oak, number 1, oak. Now, in all these cases, we want there are non-native oaks. We want native oaks. Native plums and cherries, like the American plum or the black cherry, is number 2 on the list. Number 3 on the list is willow. Not weeping willow, not Japanese willow, but Missouri River willow or black willow or pussy willow are native species of willow. That's number 3 on the list for how well it supports wildlife. Number 4 is birch, such as the river birch. Number 5 is maple, not a Norway. It needs to be a native maple, not a Norway maple, which is not only non-native but invasive. Needs to be a sugar maple or a water maple. There are many native species of maples. So we're going to stop there. Thanks for listening. This has been the first video in choosing the best trees, and we will pick it up in another video. Thanks very much.